With the arrival of February comes a time of light and love. Here are some spiritual dates that you may want to remember during the month of February. February 2nd in the Northern Hemisphere is reserved for searching and hoping for light. The day marks the celebrations of Imbolc, Candlemas, and Groundhog Day. All these festivities share the common theme of anticipating the return of spring. Imbolc begins the evening of February 1st and ends the evening of February 2nd. Ancient Celts observed Imbolc as it is the halfway point between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. It is also around this time that a ewe's milk is coming in and the lambing season will soon begin. To honor this time, Imbolc invited individuals to light candles in honor of the goddess or saint, depending on your spiritual path, Brigitte, and ask for aid during the coming lambing season. In the Christian tradition, Candlemas marks the 6-week period after Jesus' birth and when he was presented to the temple. This is also the time when candles were/are brought to the church to be blessed for the year ahead. Traditionally, many homes would spend January as a time for making new candles, and it was these freshly made candles that were brought in to be blessed. Once the candles are blessed, they then can be lit and be a symbol of eternal light. Groundhog Day is a folk tradition that shares the belief that when a groundhog emerges from his burrow on February 2nd, he will predict if spring is on its way. If the groundhog sees his shadow on this day, he will return to his burrow, for there will be another 6 weeks of winter. If the groundhog does not see a shadow, it is a sign that spring is already on its way. Depending on your spiritual path and beliefs, you may choose to celebrate 1, 2, or all 3 of these traditions on February 2nd. I personally feel that February 2nd is a time that should be given more attention. January can be a difficult month. February 2nd allows us to pause and bring light back into our lives. And now here are some ideas for how you may want to honor this time. Bless new candles. Depending on your belief system, you may want to do a blessing yourself and a ritual to bless your candles in your home, or you can bring your candles to a church for a blessing. Light the new with the old. Begin by safely setting up any candles that you have in holders. Then light an old candle and take that flame around to bless and light all the new candles. This is a wonderful way to welcome and share light. Have a candlelit evening. Turn off your overhead lights, leave the computer, phone, and television off for the night. Sit down for a feast at your dining table that is lit only by the flicker of candlelight. After dinner, share stories and songs out loud. Allow the light of the blessed candles to fill your home and your heart. Make sure to always practice safety when you're having your candles lit. Have a crepe or pancake dinner. In France, February 2nd is Crepe Day. So why not prepare some crepes or pancakes if you prefer them, light some candles, and indulge in a sweet treat. Prayer or meditation to the sun. February 2nd has a focus on light and spring. Previously, people would wish for the sun's quick return and for spring to jump forth as soon as possible. But during this age of climate crisis, February 2nd can be a wonderful time for pausing to thank the sun for his respite and for the ongoing winter that we have. The cold earth and snow are important elements of our ecosystem and growing seasons. I hope that these ideas inspired you to gather some time together on February 2nd to honor the light that is slowly returning to the sky and to care for the light that is always within you. February is the month that we are more attuned to noticing that the light is starting to return. We really begin to notice that the evening doesn't come quite so early and our mornings begin to be a little brighter. So the first journal prompt you may want to consider is, where do you find light in your life? This can be in a literal sense of the sun or bright spots in your life, or you can think about it more metaphorically of where there is light in your life. This is also a time where we may want to begin to really think about the gardens that we want to plant when spring arrives. So one prompt for your journal can be, what is one seed that you would like to plant during this year? Again, this can be a more practical seed of one plant that you really hope to grow in your garden, or again, you can think of it more metaphorically, and what is a seed you'd like to plant within yourself? Do you want to grow more compassion, understanding, patience? Anything that comes to mind. What is the one seed you'd like to plant during this year? February brings Candlemas, and this is a time that traditionally people would bring candles to be blessed. And again, this is related to that celebration and embracing of the light that we have in our life. So for your journal, you may want to write your own candle blessing that you will use on the candles that you have in your home. On February 2nd, you may want to do your own candle blessing for the candles that you have in your home. One way you can go about this is, if you have any full moon water that you like to make and you have a little bit in your home, you may want to take some of the full moon water, dab your fingers in the water, and then you may just want to anoint the candle that you have with some of your full moon water. You may want to decide to anoint the candle with a sigil that you've come up with, or any sort of design with the water. You then want to take your candle, and if you don't have any full moon water, you may just want to do this step. You're going to want to take your candle and hold it, and then try to quiet your mind and really bring yourself to the present moment. So you may want to take some mindful breaths, really bringing your awareness first to your breath moving in and out. And then you're going to want to ask that the candle be blessed. You may want to call upon any divine figure that you believe in, or you may want to call upon the goddess or Saint Brigitte, depending on your spiritual path, as February 1st is Saint Brigitte Day, and Imbolc is very much a celebration of the goddess Brigitte. So I like to ask Brigitte to bless these candles in my home and to help them bring light into my life that I can then share with others. So you may want to just come up with your own blessing for your candle that you are going to use. And again, it can just be one candle or all the candles that you have within your home. Depending on where you live in the Northern Hemisphere, if you live in the Northern Hemisphere, February is often a good month for trying to plan out the garden that you want to have during this spring and summer into the autumn seasons. Now, where I live, we are still quite far away from the planting dates, so it's not a time to start seeds yet, though it may be close to a time to start seeds depending on where you live. But either way, you may want to make some space during the February season to plan out some of the seeds you may want to plant during this coming gardening year. And here are some tips for how to plan a magical garden in your space. These tips all are to be done before you start actually sketching out your garden beds or the pot you're going to put on your windowsill. These are just some things you may want to reflect on first because they will lead you to what you may want to plant. Even though the Yuletide season did just end, I think a wonderful way to begin your garden planning is to stop and think about some of the gifts you may want to make for your friends and family. Perhaps these are gifts you want to make during the December season to gift, perhaps for birthdays, for Samhain. You may just want to take some time to think about, what are some of those things I learned about, herbal gifts that I can make? What are some of the plants I need to plant to be able to make these gifts? This is a really wonderful way to think about what you may need to plant to be able to make those gifts that you want to share with your friends and your family. Another thing you may want to consider is what you may want to eat in the coming year. Is there a specific dish you'd like to make? Perhaps a dish you'd like to make for a certain celebration or ritual. Are there things that you can plant that can help you to make this dish? Or what are some flavors you may want to have? This can help you pick the seeds that you want to plant this spring. The next thing you may want to consider, are there any magical herbs or plants that you'd like to bring into the ceremonies and rituals that you have during the year? Are you able to plant any of these? You may want to start here and start with just those plants for the year. Again, this is just letting you really sort of slim down the ideas of things that you want to plant to those that you may find most useful during the year. And lastly, it can be really easy to get super excited and want to plant all the plants, but we also want to be realistic of what we have the capacity to do. So you may just want to focus in on 1 to 3 plants that you really want to grow and harvest this year. This way you can really look into the history of the plant, the magical meaning of these plants. Take time to observe this plant as it grows and really build a relationship with it. For example, I just really like growing pumpkins. I think they're a really fun plant to observe over the seasons as they grow. I like harvesting them. I enjoy the foods that you can make from the pumpkins, and I also enjoy the magic and folk belief and folk magic that surrounds this plant. One of the plants I'm going to focus on is the pumpkin. So you may want to think of something similar for yourself and really focus in on those plants. And lastly, it's okay if you really observe the space you have and you don't really have much area to start some seeds. I'm actually just right now visiting with my parents, and they have a lot of window space that could be used for starting seeds, but the apartment that I actually live in has very little windowsill space, so I have to be realistic of if I can start seeds, what I can start in the space that I'm in. And if you don't have much space to start seeds, that's okay. You can always visit your local nursery in the spring to buy some plants that have already started to plant them. So no matter if you live in a small apartment or you have a yard or there's a field or community garden available to you, you can try and work within those spaces. Again, it can be really fun to just even focus on that one plant that grows on your windowsill. I hope this video inspired you to bring some magic into the February month and to really embrace the love and light that is around during this time. Thanks so much for spending time with Gently Being.